They laughed when I said I wasn't looking for a job. They called me aimless, useless, even set a torn paper towel at my seat while they toasted my sister's promotion. What they didn't know was that the wine they sipped, the chairs they sat on, and the company they bragged about all belonged to me. And by the time they realized it, I'd already changed the locks on the boardroom door. For good. My name is Marin Lynn, and I turned 25 the day my family reminded me exactly where I stood. I arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early, an old habit. My heels clicked against the polished tile as I followed the hostess through a corridor of flickering candles and whispered conversations. She gave me a polite, practiced smile. "They're already seated," she said, her tone a little too neutral to be warm. The table was long, far too long for 4 people. My mother sat at the center, like she always did, with my father to her right and my sister Celeste on her left, effortlessly elegant in soft blue silk. She was in mid-laughter when I approached, a fork suspended delicately between her fingers. No one stood. No one said my name. My seat had been left open. At the very end, next to the swinging kitchen door, where the servers burst through every few minutes with loud trays and louder shoes. A draft of dish soap and steam blew past my face as I sat down. There was no cloth napkin at my place, just a torn paper towel folded in half, slightly damp from the condensation of the untouched water glass beside it. I stared at it, then looked up. No one was looking back. The conversation continued without me. Stocks, ski trips, Celeste's upcoming panel at the Pacific Logistics Conference. "They bumped me up to keynote," she said, with that perfect, effortless charm. "Looks like I'll be opening for the CEO of Navicor." Applause, smiles. Even Dad looked proud. "That's our girl," he said, raising his glass. Some people were just born to lead. Then, almost as an afterthought, he glanced down the table at me, and they're still figuring things out. I didn't flinch. I just folded the paper towel in half again and set it to the side. Celeste turned toward me, all kindness. "You have so much freedom right now, Mare. Honestly, I'm a little jealous. Not everyone's made for the grind." A laugh, controlled, polite, slightly cruel. I didn't respond. I didn't remind them that I had walked away from my previous role on my own terms, that I was building something in the silence they mistook for drifting, because they weren't ready for the truth. The truth was, the restaurant they were bragging in, sipping overpriced wine and basking in their curated success, it was mine, and that was only the beginning. I didn't go straight home that night. Instead, I drove aimlessly for a while, letting the silence fill the spaces their voices had left behind. The wine toast, the careful laugh, Celeste's polished dig, it all echoed louder than it should have. I ended up in the older part of town, where the sidewalks cracked and the lampposts hummed with tired electricity. I parked in front of an old walk-up I hadn't visited in months, a place no one in my family knew existed. I still had the key. The 3rd-floor unit was barely lit. Inside, everything was where I left it. Dust-covered, quiet, and still loyal to the version of me that had once believed silence was survival. I reached under the futon and pulled out a box. Not labeled, not locked, but packed with precision. Inside were early sketches of the platform I'd built, printouts of UX flowcharts, shipping route projections, back-end code scribbled in pen. I could still smell the dry ink and burned-out ambition, the kind that comes from building alone. I'd shown some of it to Celeste once, back when I thought sisters celebrated each other. She had skimmed a few pages, then set them down. "Marin," she said, brushing a curl behind her ear, "this feels, fictional, like a college capstone project, not a company." I nodded, smiled, took the pages back. She didn't know I was already in talks with 2 regional distributors, that one of them had offered me a 6-month trial run on their back-end systems, that my code was live and running better than anything her consulting firm had pushed out in years. She never asked. She never had to. Celeste never questioned things she didn't see value in. Back then it hurt. Now, it fueled me. Back in my apartment, I slid the box beneath my bed again. Not because I was hiding it, but because I no longer needed to look at it every night to remind myself it was real. I wasn't building this for praise. I was building it because no one else would have let me. My phone buzzed. It was Ezra, my cousin on my mother's side, the quiet one. He worked night shifts in a fulfillment center somewhere in Illinois. We hadn't talked in months. His message was short. Saw your name on a vendor sheet today. Something called LinOps. That you? I stared at it. No emojis, no sarcasm. Just the quiet honesty of someone who didn't expect a performance. I replied, yeah, that's me. Not big, just real. And this time I believed it. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. Not out of excitement, just clarity. I poured a single cup of coffee, black, no sugar, and sat down at my desk. The box from last night still lingered in my mind, but I didn't reach for it. I didn't need to. The proof had already moved from paper to platform. The system I built was no longer theory, it was foundation. I logged into the back end of LinOps, my infrastructure platform for cold chain logistics. The dashboard flickered to life. Routes, timelines, node status, live performance graphs. Beneath it all, a quiet layer of logs, invisible to most. Except me. I clicked into the client ID, c.linholdings. That was Celeste. She didn't know the system she'd bragged about streamlining at last quarter's summit, the silent revolution in regional distribution, was mine. She thought she was licensing it from some mid-tier vendor in Texas, but what she didn't realize was that I had access to every override she'd made in the last 90 days. And it wasn't good. She'd been bypassing safety protocols, forcing reroutes to cut costs, hiding delays with manual patches so her reports would shine. On paper, she looked brilliant. In code, she looked desperate. A note from one of her junior analysts appeared in the log. Override forced, flagged risk, director said to ignore. I leaned back in my chair. This wasn't negligence. It was deliberate. For a moment, I felt the old ache, the kind that made me want to explain, to warn her, to fix it for her. But I let it pass. This wasn't my job anymore. I opened a private message to Lena, my legal advisor and the only person who knew I was the architect behind LinOps. Subject, internal breach. Begin quiet audit, no external alerts. Tag, Clin, partner access violation. Lena's reply was instant, understood, going silent. Later that afternoon, she messaged again. Phase 1 compiled. You want to move? I stared at the screen. Celeste's voice echoed from memory. Soft, sweet, insincere. You're lucky, Mare. You don't have to carry the pressure we do. No, I thought. I carry more. I typed, not yet. Let her think the room is empty, because people get bold when they think no one's watching. And that's when they make the clearest mistakes. 2 days later, an envelope appeared on Celeste's desk. No return address, no branding. Just her name, Celeste Lin, typed in a font too clean to be handwritten, too impersonal to ignore. Inside, a printed screenshot. A root log, annotated. It detailed every manual override she had made in the past month, highlighted in red, time-stamped, and linked to performance failures she'd hidden from the quarterly report. Taped on top was a yellow sticky note. Careful. Someone's watching. That was it. No accusation, no demand. Just quiet recognition. By noon, Celeste had called a full systems audit. She canceled 2 external meetings and pulled her entire team into a closed-door strategy session. Her assistant ordered extra security clearance for internal dashboards. Fear dressed up as due diligence. That night, my father called. I didn't answer. The voicemail was brief, annoyed. Maren, if you know anything about why your sister's acting paranoid, call me. You're not part of this, right? The words weren't concerned. They were dismissive, like always. You're not part of this. Not involved. Not important. not even worth suspecting. I listened to the message twice, then deleted it. Later that evening, I prepared a second envelope, this one for my father, inside a transcript. From a compliance training audio file recorded 2 years ago, his voice, clear as glass. Nepotism only works when the family knows how to shut up and fall in line. That line had never made it into any official report. It had been trimmed out before the final cut, but I kept it. I underlined it, folded the paper, and mailed it to him without return address. By the end of the week, they were both spiraling. Celeste doubled the internal firewall budget. My father insisted on meeting with legal to clarify exposure. The board called for a quiet review of compliance policy. No one knew where the pressure was coming from. They just knew they were being watched. Lena texted me, "You ready to go loud?" I replied, "Not yet." Let the silence work. Because sometimes the most powerful move isn't confrontation. It's control without presence. And they were finally starting to feel it. It happened on a Thursday. The quarterly leadership review was scheduled for 10 a.m. in conference room 9D, the sleek, glass-walled one Celeste always insisted on using. She said it projected transparency. I always thought it looked like a trophy case. This time, I didn't need an invitation, because the room had been reserved by a company called L&Co Holdings, an entity I quietly controlled. The keycard I carried wasn't a visitor's pass. It was an override. I arrived at 9:47, not early, not late. Inside, the lights were soft. The chairs were lined with bottled water and personalized folders, each marked with the name of a board member. I had added 2 extra, one for Celeste Lynn, one for Anthony Lynn, our father. I took the seat at the head of the table, the one Celeste usually claimed. At 10:01, the doors slid open. Celeste entered first, mid-sentence, followed by Dad and 2 compliance officers. She froze the moment she saw me. Her heel tapped once against the marble, then stopped. "Myron?" she asked. Voice thin. What are you doing here?" "I believe this seat is mine today," I said, tapping the nameplate in front of me. M. Sir Lin, Executive Review, lead Dad, narrowed his eyes. "Is this a joke?" I didn't answer. I gestured to the folders. Each one contained audit logs, override histories, expense manipulations, real documents pulled from months of silent review. Celeste reached for hers slowly. As she flipped the pages, the color drained from her face. Where did you get these?" "I didn't get them," I said. "I authorized them." Dad stepped forward. "Myron, if you have a problem with the way we're running the division, we can talk. But this is not how professionals handle things." "No," I agreed, standing. "This is how owners handle things." I walked to the screen and tapped twice. A company map appeared, tracking routes, vendors, partner networks. Then another tap. My name appeared in the bottom corner. Myron Lynn, founder, LinOps, primary stakeholder, L&Co Holdings. The room froze. Celeste stepped back like the air had gone thin. You've been behind this the whole time?" "I've been building it the whole time," I corrected. "You just didn't see me." Dad looked between us, trying to regroup. "You don't understand what this kind of exposure could do. You'll hurt our name, our legacy." "You mean your illusion of control?" I asked. Behind them, the doors clicked shut. I'd requested a private lock. No interruptions, no early exits. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's redirection. You've both misused a system I built, lied to people who trusted you, diminished someone you never bothered to understand." Celeste's voice cracked. "You always wanted to be me." I looked her in the eye. "No," I said. "I never wanted to be you. I just stopped wanting to disappear." The board members watched in silence as I handed over new leadership terms. My terms. "You'll step down from operations, by end of day. No threats, no yelling, just presence." And this time, they had no choice but to feel it. 3 weeks later, the office moved differently. Not louder, just more alive. You could feel it in the way people walked, heads a little higher, shoulders a little looser. Conversations didn't end when I entered a room anymore. They began. I didn't put my name on a plaque. I didn't stand up at all hands meetings to announce my return. I just stayed. One morning, as I passed through the main corridor, I noticed the framed portrait near reception had changed. It used to be Celeste, smiling at a ribbon cutting, arms raised like a queen. Now, it was a team photo from the warehouse days. I was in the back, barely visible, but someone had moved the frame. This time, I was centered. Later that day, I sat in a small breakout room with Kayla, our youngest analyst. She was the intern who once apologized for asking too many questions in a logistics meeting. She fiddled with the edge of her notepad. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said. "Did you ever feel like no matter what you built, it didn't count because it came from you?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Yes," I said. "All the time." She swallowed. "How did you get past that?" I smiled, not wide, but honest. "I didn't," I told her. "I just stopped building things to prove something to them, and started building what I needed to survive." She nodded. No tears, just understanding. The kind that can't be taught, only recognized. That night, when I got home, a package was waiting. No return address, just my old Austin apartment scribbled in faded ink. Inside, a photo of me and my mother, long before things got complicated. A charm bracelet I hadn't seen in years. And a handwritten note. "They may never see you clearly, but don't let them frame you with their blindness. You were never meant to fit. You were born to build." I read it twice, then pressed it to my chest like it might steady my breathing. Later, I pinned the note above my desk, beside the only quote I'd ever allowed to be etched into our office wall. No tagline, no branding. Just this. Some of us don't raise our voices. We build rooms where others finally can. And every morning after that, I walked through those rooms, not to be seen, but so others could start believing they were never invisible to begin with.